Now then, guys, welcome back to the Cycle Sunday podcast. Mr. Bowker up in Edinburgh. How are you, mate?
I'm absolutely great, but how genuinely, how has the weather been with you? Because up here has been shocking
Oh,
this
mate.
week.
So I've literally just got back from 10 days in Cornwall, and I took my bike with me, my road
Okay.
bike, because I thought, and I've been going down to Cornwall a lot, but normally we don't have space for it to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
But this time I thought, I'm taking it. And I
Yeah.
had one day in 10 where the weather was
No.
good enough to go out for a ride. The rest
Really?
of the time, it's been pretty bad. And that's coupled with the house in Cornwall that we were having basically windows put in upstairs this week, having a new bifold window. So they took the windows out, and then we had this massive storm blowing. It's
Oh,
been
wow.
shocking.
Wow.
Yeah, shocking.
Yeah.
But
I've been following your Instagram this week,
yes.
and the restaurant that you stopped
Oh,
at that had that seafood restaurant.
yes.
Now, I'm
Yeah.
not a
So,
big seafood lover. I'm the
yeah.
first to admit. I mean, for
Yeah.
me, seafood is a fish finger sandwich.
Well,
But
so
Rosie is a big seafood fan, and she saw the
yeah.
pictures and just went, "When are we going there with Pete and Tracy?"
Yeah. So we were in Rock,
Yeah,
which is just the opposite side of the bay from Padstow. I think most people will have heard of Padstow,
yeah, yeah.
but Rock's like even more posh than Padstow. And we went to a pub called the Mariners, which is owned by Paul Ainsworth, who
Okay.
has a Michelin-starred restaurant in Padstow, but
Wow.
he's also got a pub in Padstow and a pub in Rock.
Right.
And the main course I had was something called it was called the Dog's Pollock. And it was one of those things you read it on the menu, you think, really? And it was basically like a brioche, kind of hot dog style bun, but
Hmm.
with this pollock fillet with a mustard and oh mate, it was just the most incredible thing ever. It was so good. So
So you
yeah,
had,
you do need to go to the
yeah.
Mariners in Rock to have dog's pollock.
Well, yeah. I mean, it. So basically, it was a posh
Posh.
fish finger sandwich.
It was, yeah, absolutely. But the best thing is, and I'm sure many of our listeners are starting to get out and about now. So that was our first. Uh, I've eaten out a couple of times with filming away and stuff, but that was the first time Tracy and I had been out to a restaurant, and we were sat in an outside
Yes,
terrace,
yes,
and we had that, and it was just so nice being served food.
yes.
And then on Tuesday of this week, because obviously in England anyway, the restrictions lifted. We had a meal inside a
Wow.
restaurant,
Okay.
and it was really weird because that was in Padstow a few days later, and
Yeah.
and that restaurant we ate in the day before all the major lockdown stuff came down at kind of Christmas New Year time.
Right.
So the last restaurant we ate in before lockdown
Yeah.
was the same restaurant as the first restaurant we ate inside after lockdown. So it was quite
Wow.
cool. A place
Fantastic.
called Burgers and Fish in Paso. So yeah, no, we had a nice time. But oh my goodness me, let's get back to the cycling content.
Yes.
Cornwall's really, really gnarly,
Really
like
gnarly.
really bad.
W-
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. What? So, are you referring to the more sort of coastal? So, is it lots of short, sharp climbs and short,
Oh
sharp
yeah,
descents?
like 15, 20%ers that maybe are only I don't know half a mile long, but it's just brutal. And
Brilliant.
I did one of my favorite cycling gadgets, because we need to kind of talk more about cycling gadgets, but
Yeah.
my favorite cycling gadget, and I actually think for me, I'm going to be really brave here,
Mm-hmm.
pound for pound, some of the best money you can spend.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a Garmin Edge 1000 cycle computer,
Yeah.
and that has a feature called round trip routing.
Do you know what? I was talking to a gentleman in the shop
Yeah,
today about
yeah.
that feature.
It's
Go.
the best feature
Yeah.
ever.
Yes.
So, I because I even riding around your home,
Yeah.
you know all the villages and all the routes and stuff,
Yeah.
or you at least you think you do.
Yeah.
And what round trip routing does, and it's really simple to describe.
Yeah.
You go into your Garmin, it says, where do you want to go? And you go round trip routing, and you type the distance that
Yeah.
you want to go
Yeah.
in miles or kilometers, depending on how you got your Garmin set up.
Yeah.
So I just said 30 miles,
Yeah.
and then it gives you 3 route options,
Yeah.
and it gives you the distance and the elevation that
Yes.
you're going to go through.
Yeah.
So you can see how bumpy it is.
Yeah.
And then whichever of those 3 you want, you basically select it, and then you start your Garmin, and it's just like bike sat nav. It takes
Yes.
you on a round trip route.
Yes.
It
Turn by
prioritizes
turn.
cycle friendly
Yeah.
roads.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's a bit annoying because it quite likes cycle paths.
Uh-huh.
So it will get you on a cycle path, but there's an on road and an off road feature. So if you're a mountain biker, it will do off road
Yeah.
routes,
Yeah.
and it's just mega because you even near your home, you'll go down roads that you've never even known were there.
Yes. Yes. And the other
And
thing that
on the whole,
yeah.
it's pretty good.
Yeah, it is. And the other thing that a lot of people don't realize, and before people start shouting in the comments, oh, that's Big Brother, oh, they're stealing data. No, they're absolutely not. What they do is Garmin's effectively seeing where their computers, when you've engaged the GPS, and what it basically does is it creates a Garmin map on the Garmin Connect site of
Hmm.
all the cycle hotspots. So it turns the roads into purple, where it can see that the vast majority of cyclists actually are. So when you're
Yep.
creating your own route, you can go, oh, I fancy going up there. And you might see 2 or 3 roads that you might potentially go down. But if you see one that is particularly dark purple, you can really see that that is where the cyclists go as well. So it
Yeah, because of course you can go on Garmin Connect website and create your own route.
indeed,
Because I think if you're and I can't believe actually it's taken us this long before we've talked about this.
Hmm.
But if you're wanting to go out for, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, you
Yeah.
want to do 30, 40, 50, 60 miles, then yes, you can go there and back. You can cycle out 25 miles, turn around and come back, and know you've done 50
Yeah.
miles. But I don't know what it is about doing there and back routes. They never float my boat.
No.
But doing a round route and coming back,
Yeah.
and I've discovered so many, certainly in the South Down, so many beautiful places I didn't know were there.
Yes.
Because of round trip routing. So it is a mega feature, and I don't know what a Garmin 1000 Edge did. They're like 350 quid, something like that. They're not silly money, I don't think.
Well, we've moved on a little bit. It's now called the.
Oh, sorry. What's the latest one?
Yeah. So, well,
Do I need to have a new one?
we're 2 on now. So,
Ooh.
about 2 years ago, they launched the 1030,
Yeah.
which has got a lot of lovely new features to it as well.
Uh-oh.
And now they've just launched the new 1030 Plus. And those people who sort of do the whole Wahoo Garmin thing, should I buy Wahoo or should I buy a Garmin? Anybody who loves Apple, buy a Garmin. And the reason being is that Garmin, they make a great computer, so they make great hardware. But what they also do is make a really intuitive back end. So the actual interface that the customer uses is so easy to navigate. And their new 30 range, so the 530, 830, and 1030. And by the way, anybody who just wants to buy a Garmin, it's dead simple. A 530, you go through and access all of the menus with buttons. An 830 is the same size as a 530, but has got a touchscreen. So is much quicker and easier to find the menus.
Yep.
A 1030 has got a little bit more functionality than an 830, but crucially has got a bigger screen.
Yeah.
So if you can't physically see an 830 screen whilst it's on your bike and your head is away from it, buy a 1030.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
amount of people who complicate the purchase of their Garmin by looking at, oh, well, this can only do this data and that can only do that data. No, it's really simple.
Mm.
If you don't like button choosing through menus, buy an 830. If you can't see the screen of an 830, buy a 1030. The end.
Yeah.
And is a head unit on its own is about £520 for a 1030.
Okay.
But
Does that come with the maps?
oh yeah, all your maps and everything,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
also
Because there was a point where you'd buy one and then you had to buy a license for the maps and stuff. This a few years ago now, and it was a right.
No, it's they've really sorted all that out. You're right, they've just sorted it all out, and the conversation I was having. So we weren't planning on talking about this tonight, but we are doing anyway. So
No,
great.
but it's a good subject.
Yes.
So rock on.
So the guy who I was talking to today was saying about, well, I could just use my phone.
Yes.
Yeah, and just click that onto my handlebars.
Like a quad lock or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, exactly. And I think the quad lock systems are really good. So this isn't a, don't use your phone, do use a Garmin, vice versa. This is more a conversational point and where my head is personally. So I, like you, Peter, own a Garmin 1000.
Yeah.
I'd love a 1030, but my Garmin 1000
Yep.
still hasn't failed me, and trying to get that sign off from procurement is absolutely
I've got a story about that I need to tell you.
Oh, okay. But trying to get sign off from procurement is just not on at the moment, because it's a case of what's wrong with the standard answer. What's wrong with the one that you've got? Honestly, nothing. So therefore, I've not got sign off. But the conversation I was having with the gentleman was, for example, this here is my Samsung Note S20, which is an absolutely fantastic handset. Very rarely gets used as a telephone. It's mainly a camera and an Instagram upload device.
Yeah, and every now and again a few WhatsApps to me.
Indeed. But you tell me, because you are the telecoms man.
Yeah.
So here's my rationale. A Samsung Note S20 as a handset is about 1,350 quid.
Yeah.
And whilst phones have got a lot more robust over the years, they're designed to really be in a backpack or a jacket pocket or a trouser pocket, not on the handlebars of a bike with the harmonic vibrations that go through a bike.
Yeah, yeah.
And the waterproofing, again, whilst phones are getting better and better and better.
Water resistance.
Sorry, yeah. No, you're 100% right. Sorry, the water resistance is getting better.
Yeah.
A Garmin, has been designed for cycling, whereas a phone is just an adaptation of what it needs to be. The water resistance of a Garmin has been specifically designed around being on a bike in multiple weather conditions. As to is the hardware and the circuitry that's on the inside of the Garmin. And I just know when did I get my Garmin 1000? If I said about 4 or 5 years, would that ring true about you?
I've had mine 5 years.
Yeah.
I think.
So 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And it has been utterly faultless. In fact, the only time where I did have an issue was because I hadn't updated the software and it crashed. And that was once.
I had once, it updated the software and deleted my bike profiles.
Okay.
So I had to go in and create them all again.
But other than that,
that's the only time
whilst you're out riding, the screen, the functionality, and just the usability of it has been utterly faultless for the miles that we have done on both road and mountain. I'm not convinced that I would have 5 years of use with a Samsung Note S20 on my bike.
Yeah.
What do you
I
reckon?
think for me, there's a couple of things. So, I mean, I didn't realize this was going to be such an interesting
Yeah.
subject. So, I track all of my bike and running activity using
Yes.
Strava. Okay, and I know things changed a little bit a while ago, maybe 18 months, 2 years ago, because my Garmin devices used to automatically sync with
Yeah.
Strava, and now they do, but they sync with Garmin's platform
Yes.
first, and then you can link that to
Correct.
Strava. So they're still
Yeah.
linked
Yeah.
together. But so if I have Strava as an app on my
Yes.
phone, so I'm guessing most people would probably, if they were using a phone like an iPhone or a
Yeah.
Samsung, they'd be using Strava natively on their
Yeah.
smartphone connected to
Yeah.
their handlebars, and that's
Mhm.
fine. My and when I go out running, sometimes I'll just have my, if especially if I'm away and I've forgotten to, because I've got a Garmin Forerunner watch for
Okay.
running and a Garmin Edge device for
Yes.
my bike, and they're both linked to Garmin, and then they both link to
Yeah.
Strava. But if I was going out for a run for an hour, let's
Mhm.
say, I'd quite happily just stick my Strava on my phone and
Yes.
off I go. The challenge I got with a bike ride is bike rides are often a bit
Yeah.
longer than that. So if you've got your smartphone on your
Yeah.
handlebars with your Garmin or Strava app
Yes.
open, battery consumption is going to
Sure.
increase quite
Sure.
a lot. And for really long rides, you may well find that even with the better battery technology and battery life that a modern day
Yeah.
smartphone has, you're gonna
Yeah.
struggle a bit. My Garmin Edge will quite happily operate for eight,
Yeah.
9 hours,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, because it's designed
Yes.
to do that. And I'm not being funny, but I think I've only ever done maybe one or two rides where my Garmin's batteries
Yes.
run out because the ride's been
Yes.
such a long ride, and I ran out not long after
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, when I was on the Marmot, just
Yeah.
finish off in a second. When I was on the Marmot, that was a little over 10 hours, 10.5 hours,
Hmm.
and for that, I turned my screen brightness all the way down, switch my
Yeah.
Wi-Fi off, switch Bluetooth off
Yeah.
on my
Yeah.
Garmin 1000, switched everything off except for its connectivity to the power meter that I had on the bike,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that still had around 15 to 20% based on those settings parameters, 15 to
Yeah.
20% left at the end of 10.5 hours. And what was interesting was that Steve, the guy who I rode the Marmot with, next to me has a Garmin 1030. He just bought that as a new release, and he did exactly the same. He dropped the screen brightness down, switched the Wi-Fi off, and he still had nearly 45% left in his 1030.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, my worry with my Garmin, and probably the main reason for me thinking about upgrading it would be just it's an older device. It's 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah,
Battery is, battery cycles. The more cycles they go
yeah,
through, the older they get, the less
yeah,
efficient they
yeah,
are. So, but the other reason for me why I've not gone down the route of using my smartphone is that my Garmin head unit is also connected to other devices either on me, so I wear a heart
yeah,
heart monitor, and then I've got on my bike, I've got a cadence
yeah,
and wheel rotation
yeah,
monitor, so that you get the GPS data from the Garmin, but you also get that backed
yeah,
up by rotational a little
yeah.
magnet on the wheel. And I, I'm sure there are ways you can link that to
Mm,
your phone. I've never looked into it. I'm sure someone will say in the
mm,
comments. But that for me is what. And then the other thing I've also got on my Ultegra Di2
yeah,
group set. I've got a Garmin sender
yeah,
on the back that
yeah,
sends groups or my Di2 information to my Garmin head
yes,
unit, so I can see how much charge I've got left in the
yeah,
Di2 battery. I can see what
yeah,
gear I'm in, in the front and rear mech, and I've also got at the end of the ride. It's quite funny. You get how many gear changes
Yes.
you've made
Yes.
on the
Yes.
front and the rear mech. So, but that indicator, I mean, my challenge is always how many screens to
Hmm.
have showing on your Garmin with all the, because they just have so much
Yeah. Yeah.
information
Yes.
you can show. And that's why I've always gone down the Garmin route. And but as I said, it for me, when I bought it, I can remember wincing a little bit. 4 or 5 years ago, it was
Yeah.
350
Yeah.
quid or something. Thinking, whoa,
Mm.
that's a lot of money. Then you buy the little pickup thing for the
Mm.
back of the bike, but it's the best
Yeah.
money
It's
I've ever
great.
spent. And certainly with the Bianchi, when we
Hmm.
finished that off, I've got my
Yeah.
Garmin head unit, but I haven't talked to you about this. But the likelihood is I'll want some kind of sender and pickup
Hmm.
for cadence
Yeah.
from my crank. And for
Yeah.
rotation of the back wheel, because I ride quite a lot on cadence. I know what my cadence, my
Yeah.
comfy cadence is. I'm a quite a high cadence
Yeah.
rider, so I'm normally sat at like 80 to
Yeah. Yeah.
85
Yeah. Yeah. That's nice.
RPM
Yeah.
on, and that I'll sit at that
Hmm.
all day long. Um, so that yeah, so a completely unplanned conversation about Garmin. So for those people who, and then the other thing, and this is this might sound really sad actually, but it's very important to me, is that I really like to know how many miles my bikes have
Okay.
done.
Yeah. Yeah. So setting up the garage function.
And so I've got my
Yeah.
little garage. I've got all my bikes set
Yeah.
up on my Garmin, and whenever I go out riding, I select
Yeah.
which bike I'm on. Or when I come back and it uploads to Strava, I compile all of this in Strava rather than in
Yeah.
the Garmin app. But I just select which bike I'm on, and then I've got basically a history of all the rides I've done on all the bikes and how many
Yes.
miles they've done. So I can look at my Venge and see. I think I've done 5 or 6 thousand
Yeah.
miles on my Venge now, and for me, it's almost like I don't know. It's just part of the connection I
Yes.
have with the bikes. I can see how many
Yeah.
miles I've done, and I can look at what my longest
Yeah.
rides are, and I'm not that bothered about King of the Mountains and segment times and
No.
all that kind of stuff, because to be quite honest, now when I first started using Strava, there weren't that many people on it, so you could actually reasonably get a King of the
Mm.
Mountains.
Yeah.
Now, forget it.
Yeah.
Actually, I've got to tell you this. Well, one of the comments, I don't know if you saw it, but in our lots of chats recently
Yeah.
about e-bikes, one of the kind of fairly vitriolic comments about e-bikes was the annoyance that basically e-bike riders had stolen all of the King of the Mountain segments around this
Yeah.
guy's house, because they're basically zooming up and not saying
Yeah.
it's on an
Yeah.
e-bike,
Well,
and
there's two ways of looking at that. Number
yeah,
one, the e-bike riders, when they're uploading to Strava, they really should be flagging that it's an e-bike ride, because Strava's getting better now
yes,
that you can have your own King of the Mountains. Okay. So the e-bike
yeah,
riders should be doing that. But
yeah,
then actually, people in general should really stop caring. There
mm,
is a
yeah,
lot more
no fucks given.
in this world, pre-COVID, pre-Brexit, pre-everything else, that actually warrants time to worry about. And
Yeah,
your
but
KOM is not one of them.
no, but I think certainly. I mean, I quite like the. I mean, I use Strava for running as well, but I quite like the going into the history of the ride
Yeah,
and looking at how many
yeah,
calories, or what your efforts were like, and I don't go into heart rate zones and all that kind of stuff, which you
yeah,
clearly can do with
yeah.
platforms like Strava, and we're not
No,
sponsored by Strava, by the way. But I think it's quite a useful tool to keep a track of what you're doing, and you can see how many miles you've done each
yeah,
week or each month. And for me, when I go onto my Strava profile, I often think, oh, I'm not riding enough. Look, I haven't ridden
yes,
for like a
yes,
week or whatever it might be. But yeah, but drawing an end to this bit of the discussion, I think a Garmin device, and again, there are clearly other cycle computer
yeah,
devices out there. I'm just a big fan of Garmin. I've used Forerunner running watches since 2009 when I
Yeah.
ran the marathon. I bought a Forerunner running watch, and I've still got it. It's a massive thing. It's like a house
Yes.
brick on my wrist. But I trained for the marathon. I don't think, because when I ran the marathon, I've only done one marathon. I thought I was going to get into marathon running, and then realised it was horrible and painful, and my knees didn't like it very much. But I set myself a target. I didn't run at all. I wasn't a runner. I couldn't run a bath. And then I did a 5-mile fun run with a friend, and then I thought, right, I'm just gonna run the marathon next year. I'd had a few friends do it, and I entered with a charity. I raised some money for Royal National Institute for the Blind, because my mum had
Okay.
sight problems, and I thought, right, I'm not just going to run it. I'm gonna run it from no training, 4-month training plan, and I'm going to run it
Wow.
in less than 4 hours. And I couldn't have done that without
Yes.
without a running watch. It's that simple, because I ran
Yes.
to a pace. And I think that's one of the things for runners, that the Garmin devices, they allow you to see what
Yeah.
your pace is, and it's a really easy
Yeah.
way to, if you want to run a marathon in less than 4 hours, you
Yeah.
need to be running, I don't know, less than 8
Yes.
minute 30
Yes.
miles, something like that.
Yes.
And that's all I did, and I ran it in 3:57.
Well done.
So on a bike, it's the same thing. So I think for anyone who's getting into cycling that wants to do a sportif or train for anything, I think using a cycle computer of some type is like an almost essential thing.
But also for leisure cyclists, so you e-bike riders who are just riding for leisure, wanting to find places that you may have lived in your area for 20 years. But because you've not been a cyclist in your area for 20 years, you might not actually know some of the cycle paths, cycle tracks, or the routes and the tracks and the trails that we cyclists who have been cyclists for 20 years have created, or not just created, but have ridden. So exactly as Peter said, right at sort of well into this conversation, for leisure cyclists, owning pretty much a good quality sat nav for your bike, and that intuitive design that just anybody of any age, I mean, my brother will confess, I am the worst when it comes to ability to work my way through technology. I'm very mechanical and very engineering focused. I'm not very electronic and sort of computer focused. But I would honestly say that I get about 80% of the functionality within a Garmin 1000, just simply and purely because they've made the interface so user friendly. It's easy to go through. And the routes that I have found, even locally to me, living where I live for nearly 10, 15 years, the routes that I've found because of that round trip routing has been absolutely fantastic. So if you,
I think they make you
do.
appreciate cycling more, because you get out and do stuff. And the other thing, feature wise, which if guys aren't running Garmin, which is really cool, is let's say you go out and you type into round trip routing, I'm going to do 30 miles, and you get 15 miles in, and it's taken you into a bit of the countryside you've never ever been before, and you think, oh my god, I'm really really knackered. You just got a take me home function, and it will just cancel the round trip route that you plugged in and just get you home the quickest way, and you just follow it and you come home. So you just you can't go wrong, really. It's brilliant. So but what I would say is, I should have put into my round trip routing in Cornwall, don't take me up any hills that are going to make me die, because I went up 2 hills. One, I had to have a call with one of the guys I'm doing something with on YouTube, and I kind of messed up my timing a little bit, and I said, "Oh, just call me. I'm out on my bike. It's not a problem." Anyway, he rang as I was halfway up a 20%er, right, and I was literally chewing the bar tape, and I picked my phone up, and he went, "What's wrong? It sounds like you're being, it's just like this heavy breathing, some kind of 1970s porn film or something." I went, "I'll ring you back when I get to the top of the hill." and I was proper blowing. And then I it took me down a footpath that was a little bit gnarly. I
Right.
should have been on a gravel bike really, and for the first time in a long time, I got off my bike and pushed
Okay.
it up the hill.
I think there's
Sorry.
been two.
Nobody saw me doing it. Nobody saw me doing it. Pushing a several £1,000s worth of carbon fiber aero bike up a hill in full Tour de France cycling gear. But it was
Peter,
horrible.
Peter,
I needed a triple.
I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
But
I know. So was I. I haven't done that for about 4 years. It was
doesn't matter.
25%
Do you know
hill.
what that doesn't?
My Garmin broke. The angle thing broke. It went, you can't be cycling up this. What are you doing,
doesn't
Everest
matter.
Base Camp?
The reason why that happened is it's too many private jets and champagne, and not enough time riding bicycles.
Oh, you couldn't be. I know, mate. I know. But yeah, so yeah, riding was pretty gnarly. What I do need to say though is I went down there in my lovely Kia Sorento.
Good looking bus that.
And it's a mate. Honestly, I haven't done a review of it on the channel yet.
Okay.
I actually filmed one on the way down. I filmed a video about me
Yeah.
putting the bike in the back. It's that big. I could have set the turbo up in the back. I mean, it's massive. I went down there. We actually took 2 cars down. I went down 2 days before Tracy, and I filled the car, put my bike. I did take the front wheel off. In fact, no, I took both wheels off to get it in because I had loads of other stuff. But on the way home today, I just stuck it in with both wheels on. Massive thing. But yeah, no. So it was a good trip down. But I only went out once because the weather was horrible.
No, very good. No, that's fantastic. Because
But
I watched you pick that
the other
up
thing
on your YouTube from Hendy's. Yeah, and I did think when I was looking at it, I thought that's a really nice looking car. They've really done a good job,
mate. It's been a really interesting car so far.
Okay.
It's a plug-in hybrid, so. One of the big things I've discovered, I know we're going off piste and talking about cars for a moment, but one of the reasons that I wanted to kind of get more longer term cars was you learn things when you live with a car for a long time that you don't when you only have a car for a couple of days. And I've said on a few plug-in hybrid reviews that my gut feel says that lots of people who buy a plug-in hybrid plug it in for the first couple of weeks and then get bored and don't bother plugging it in anymore. Well, I've been plugging it in at home, and on short runs to Chichester and back in the local area, most of the time it's running on electric and it's returning like ridiculous MPG, like 150 miles to the gallon. When I drove it down to Cornwall, I had nowhere to plug it in down in Cornwall. So I've driven it for pretty much 10 days on one charge, and the MPG gets affected really quite. I mean, I was still doing 40 miles to the gallon, which for a big SUV isn't too bad, but it was just a really good example of having a car for a bit longer and really getting under its skin. But as a bike carrier, mega. The only thing that could make it better, and you can spec one, but this particular car doesn't have a tow hitch. And I would have liked a tow hitch so I could put my tow hitch mounted bike carrier on the back and not have to worry about putting the bike in the car. Yeah. But very good car. Really, really good car. But the things to report to the Cycle Sunday podcast listener and any peddlers listening is we've gone N+1 in the Greaves household, have we not?
Do tell.
Well, actually, we've got N+1 times 2.
Well, do you know, this is actually quite a good segue about, because I came up with an analogy with a customer today looking at a particular type of bike that might be your N+1. So you tell first, and I'm just gonna I'm gonna tell my analogy in a second.
Well, I think we've talked about e-bikes a lot in the podcast recently, and I think we mentioned even in the last one that we said that Mrs. Petrolped, we were going to be getting an e-bike for her. And we've been super lucky because I know the bike supply issues of well documented, things that we've talked about. We changed the spec a little bit because I think originally we were going to go for a kind of
Yes.
road-based hybrid,
Yes.
and a
That's
Lant,
exactly it.
weren't we? I think it was, and then we
Yeah.
evolved that thinking to go for a Trek
Sport.
Powerfly
Yes.
Sport, which is a hybrid with a little
Yes.
bit of mountain bike in it.
Yes.
So suspension forks,
Yes.
hard tail, but able to do a
Indeed.
little bit of kind of, tracks and trails and things, which
Yeah.
for
And
Tracy is
where you
absolutely
live,
perfect.
that's
We
the
managed,
point. For where you live,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
perfect.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And we managed to, we got her measurements, like we've said about a million times on Cycle Sunday so far, inseam measurement, height, and we managed to source a Powerfly Sport. And the most exciting thing is literally today, so we're filming or recording this on Friday.
It arrived in the shop. It's in the box.
Shop. So I got a picture. So Tracy's like, I've never seen her so excited about anything. She's like, really super excited. Yeah. Oh, like really, like she's like, oh mate, that's really cool. So yeah, when are we going to get it? And she's really excited. So
that's the other thing,
really cool.
because the question of when am I going to get it? Well, things have changed for us a little bit.
Mate, so tell us. So we've alluded to this in a phone call earlier on, but because I was like, oh God, that means we've got to drive all the way up to Scotland. You went, no.
Criterium Cycles, what has happened over the past few months is, moving into the new shop, we're getting deliveries of bikes, sort of loads of them, which is really great. So if anybody's sort of saying, well, getting hold of a bike's a nightmare at the moment, it's, bikes. How do you get a bike? The reason why it's so bad is that we've got them all.
Yeah. Nobody else has got any stock apart from Criterium Cycles.
We've got a lot of bikes on order. We've got a lot of bikes in stock, and it's really good. And what's happening is we're getting customers that are contacting us from all over the UK, just basically saying, look, you've got this bike, nobody else has got it. Can I have it? And we've been meeting people all over the place. It's been great. I mean, it's
they're all watching Cycle Sunday.
And also, this is what we're talking about on the phone, is that we've had so many people in the comments saying, oh, do you know what? I've been really enjoying Cycle Sunday. I really wish Criterium was my local bike shop. I really like those guys. It's been very humbling.
One person particularly liked you.
Yeah, I was blushing. But it was very kind. It was really kind. But I'm
Gina F56 Cooper S. You know who you are.
So big smile. I'm blushing.
He's blushing. Yeah. Look, he's gone pink.
So back to reality. Yeah, professional.
Get to your professional.
So really, we said, well, hang on, we're getting people saying, I wish you were local to us. I'd love to buy a bike from you. And people who are phoning us from all over the UK. So we have now invested in another van. So we are a 2-van family.
What colour?
Interestingly, we've gone for a black one. So we've got a black one and an orange one. And we're going to get, and our colours are black, orange with a sort of
mate. Black one with a Criterium Cycles logo on the side.
Yeah, but the reverse of that on the orange one. Yes.
So you need orange stripes on the black one.
Yeah. So we've got our guys at Apex Signs who's coming up with a couple of renderings of how we can create the 2 coloured vans with similar sign writing, but in the reverse flips. Indeed,
in mirrors,
I
mate.
think that'll look pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
So we've got so Richard's
Yeah.
picking that van up on Monday. So another new Ford Transit coming to the fleet. So and what would be good for you, Peter, because Richard's gone for the 130 horsepower limited spec, whereas I've got the
Yeah.
185 horsepower sport spec. So
I
you
can see a
have
review
got a
coming to Ped.
back-to-back coming up. Yes.
Excellent.
So on our website at the moment, if you go into a bike that you like the look of, and there is now set up, you can go and find the bike that you want. If it's on the website, it's in stock. And at checkout, you've got a choice of doing a click and collect, so coming to the store and coming to collect it from us, or clicking on Criterium home delivery. And the only things that we don't do, and everybody's got to realise we're brand new to this. We've never done this before. So it is going to be a work in progress. It's very hand to mouth, but we wanted to keep it really simple. So if you do click for home delivery, you just click on there. And if you're within a postcode area that we do, which I'll talk about in just a second simply, then it will allow you to do a home delivery and you can pay for your bike. And the next thing that we will do is phone you and then make the arrangements. So it's not got a sort of working calendar and, you know, being in this day and this time. We will phone you personally and say, right, thanks ever so much for your order. Everything's gone through. We see you live in here. Let's put the date in the diary, and this is when we'll turn up. So everything works really personally. So we're effectively doing from Inverness down to the south coast of England. We're sort of...
That's a fairly big delivery area, mate.
It's massive, absolutely massive, and it's got to work. That's the thing. We've got, we're going to keep it under constant review because it can't be costing us money. That's the thing. We're a business, so we're not going all the way down into the depths of Cornwall at the moment, and particularly over the summer. Look, you know what it's like.
I just spent 6.5 hours driving back from Cornwall today.
Yeah,
and it should only take
we can't be doing overnighters and that sort of stuff. It's just the margins in the bike industry. It's just not there. So, and then we're not going north of Inverness at this moment, and we're not doing the islands. So basically, if we have to get on a boat, we're not doing it. But yeah, if you're,
do you charge for that? Is that an extra charge?
So we're only doing it on bikes that are over £2,000.
Yep.
But we're not charging for delivery.
Wow.
And again, I know everything's going to be under review. We may have to if it's just not being cost effective. But what we want to just keep it really, really simple at the moment. We're going to be doing bikes over £2,000. You can order it as a customer delivery, as long as you work with us in terms of, if you demand that it needs to be on this day at this time, that's not reasonable.
Right.
It's got to be within a sort of a circuit run of deliveries. We really want to be convenient for you, but it's also got to be convenient for us as well.
I guess you'll try and get a couple of deliveries on the same run, right? To make
definitely, yeah. If we can get 4 to 5 bikes on a circuit, then it all works out. But if we only have one bike going to Inverness, we're not going to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we're not bringing your bike." We'll bring your bike.
Really cool, mate.
So we just want we're trying new things. We want to be developing as a company. So it's really exciting, and it's going to be me and Richard to start with, and then if it really takes off, we'll then look at potentially employing an actual driver to come and do the
So you're like the
handovers.
Uber Eats of the bike world.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Get a free Big Mac with every bike, mate. That is very, very cool. Very,
yeah.
very cool.
But do
So
you know where we also deliver?
where's that? Chichester.
Chichester.
Yeah, baby, you need to come down and that. Yes, okay, we need to sort that
So,
out.
so that's the plan. So we've got your bike,
Yes.
and
Well, Tracy's
I
bike.
think, yeah, indeed. So we've got Tracy's bike, and I think it would make a really good video of
Yep.
us loading Tracy's bike into the back of the van, heading on down to you, and then filming the handover.
Yep.
So what a customer would expect as part of a handover of their new bike delivered to them, and then head back off up the road, and maybe we could even do a first ride.
That would be very good. Yeah, I
How
can
good
get
would
some
that be?
GoPros on Tracy's bike. She'd love that.
Yes, I think that'd
Yeah.
be absolutely fantastic. So that's the I
Well,
think that would
sounds
work
like
out really
a
well.
plan in the making. The other thing, talking about that, so that's N+1.
Yes,
But then the other N+1 is
yes,
so now that my lovely better half is having an e-bike, even
yes,
though I'm going to be getting the world's most incredible road bike,
yes.
once we can actually build it, I've been told reasonably confidently by Mr. Bowker that
Mm.
even if I'm on my Bianchi, if I go out on a ride with Tracy on her e-bike, she's going to destroy me. So I need to get an e-bike as well. So that's what I've done.
So what you're saying is it's more of a service you're offering Tracy, not the
What?
fact that you want a nice new shiny bike.
Well, it's N+1, isn't it? But it was. I think we'll do a separate video on this on Cycle Sunday. But it was a
Yes,
gravel bike or e-bike, and I've been
yes,
talking a lot. And clearly, the biggest challenge with working with you and becoming very, very good friends with you, and being up in the bike shop a lot, is you
yeah,
surround me with bike porn that needs to be bought. And yes, more to the Cycle Sunday episodes coming soon. But yes,
yes.
an e-bike will be joining the petrol ped stable soon. We won't say what yet.
No, I don't think so.
No, but it is going to happen. So that, and the reason actually is that the last podcast we did, you were talking about going out with Rosie on your
Yes,
e-bikes and enjoying it
yes,
so much.
yes,
And I have to say that for me, that's what I want to be able to do.
yes, yes,
And T and I have talked about it, and we're just so excited by the thought of doing that. So yeah,
yes.
so that's quite exciting. But I mean, how exciting!
It's all good. It
I know, mate.
is.
I know.
It's really really good.
And that we had just what I find really funny about this, we had a plan of what we were going to talk about tonight, and that plan we haven't really followed it at all,
At all.
apart from the talking about the delivery service. So
Yes.
that was a completely unscripted podcast that's kind of gone totally off piste, but in a really, really good way.
Yes. You're gonna have to come up with a new title.
I know. A new title, and I don't know what I'm going to do for the thumbnail, but I'll think of something.
Yeah.
But yeah,
What I can do is I can send you some photos of Garmin's.
yeah, actually, that's a very good idea. Thanks, do that.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, so I'm gonna I'm gonna kind of start drawing this podcast to a close.
Yes.
Totally unscripted, but summarizing what we talked about. As I said, there are lots and lots of different bike computers out there, but I
Yeah.
think what that round trip routing function on a Garmin does for me
Yeah.
is, lots of the things we talk about on Cycle Sunday are about helping people get more out of their cycling.
Yes.
And for me, one of the things, and actually it was one of the reasons why I kind of backed off on the running and started cycling more, was when you're running, there are only that many limited routes you can do from your house that are sort of, up to 5, 6, 7 miles long.
Yeah.
And you kind of get to know all the roads quite quickly. On a bike, you can pretty much say, oh, I wonder what's down there, and have an explore for an hour.
Yeah.
But what round trip routing does is it takes you places you'd never see. And certainly in the past, when I've been teaching away or working away and I've taken my bike with me, which I do sometimes, is if you're in a place that you have no understanding of at all,
Yes.
it will still give you the ability to go out on your bike and enjoy 30, 40, 50 miles, whatever.
Yes.
And if you want to train up to do a sportif, you set you set your target on 100-mile sportif. You need to have done, for me, I don't think you need to do 100 miles before then, but you need to have done 70 or 80 miles before you do 100-mile sportif.
Yes. Yeah.
And round trip routing helps you do that.
Yes.
It's that simple. So,
Indeed.
So yeah.
And the other thing that we didn't mention, which is the typical, how am I ever going to get this past procurement?
Yes.
A lot of the modern Garmins now have a system which is called incident detection. So it basically uses a GPS and an accelerometer. So if you had an accident and fell off your bike and you were unconscious, it would then, once you've got incident detection set up, it will send a notification to your next of kin, so your wife, partner, husband, whatever, to say, this is where the incident has taken place. And so you've got an actual GPS location of where that cyclist is at that moment in time.
So that's really cool, actually, because I wear one of these identity wristbands with Tracy's phone number and contact details on it, because you have a crash on your bike and you're on your own, because I cycle on my own quite a lot. You know, you say, oh, I've got my phone with me, but your phone will be locked to a PIN number or your Face ID. So, and I don't generally carry a wallet or any ID with me. So having something like that's a really cool idea, actually.
Yeah, but don't forget your identity bracelet is great when somebody finds you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right? But if you're in the middle of nowhere, in a ditch, then when does somebody find you? What incident detection does is, as soon as it notifies that you've come to a dead stop and drop to the ground, it will then alert the person that you've set up.
Yeah.
Immediately. So there you go. So it's more of a safety feature, is why you're buying it.
Yeah. So this podcast was brought to you with the support of Garmin devices.
Yeah.
Not anyone from Garmin listening, by the way. We need sponsorship.
Well, we deal directly with Garmin, so I'm going to phone Adam on Monday. Listen to this podcast.
Ped needs a new Garmin for his Bianchi. Anyway,
if you'd like this to go live.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed that one. Always a great pleasure chatting and learning new things from Mr. Bowker.
Yeah.
But yes, if you've enjoyed that one, don't forget to check out Criterium Cycles, and especially his home delivery service, which is very, very cool, especially in the times when people want to get hold of bikes, and your stock and the stock that you've got coming in is really quite a special thing, actually, in the current climate. So check that out. Make sure you follow Criterium Cycles on social, and obviously if you want to give me a follow on Petroped, that would be great. But yeah, we will see you on the next episode of the Cycle Sunday podcast. Just before we finish, I do want to say a massive thank you to everyone who sent in suggestions for Series 2 of Cycle Sunday. We've had some amazing emails in already. I've got loads of really great ideas being compiled, so thank you for that. But if you do have any ideas, then please feel free to send them in, ped.greaves@gmail.com. But I am going to sign off this podcast here. Mr. Bowker, it's been a pleasure as always, but it's that time where I say, I've been Pete Greaves.
And I've been Paul Bowker.
No, you were going to say you've been that really handsome chap that,
Oh, no, I'm too embarrassed.
Paul's got a follower. Paul's got someone. Look, he's going red already.
I'm,
Anyway,
yeah, I'm too shy.
you're too shy, too good
Yeah,
looking and too shy.
not at all.
But yes, I hope you enjoyed that one, guys. But anyway, everyone out there, take care and ride safe.
Ride safe, everybody.